Good morning. Today I'm going to talk about part two of the lunar month for countries and people, the lunar month from June 6th through July 5th. I'll talk about Putin, Russia, Ukraine, uh, Prince King Charles, Princess Kate, uh, Pope Francis, and maybe one or two other things. So let's see if I can go ahead and share my screen. And I just need to get rid of a few panels so that I can see what I'm doing. We're just about there. Okay, so this should be it. The Lunar Month for Countries and People, Part 2. Putin, Russia, Ukraine, King Charles, Kate Middleton, that's Princess Kate, United Kingdom, and Pope Francis, June 6th through July 5th. Now, in each instance, I'm going to begin with the by wheel where I have the country or person's chart on the inside, and the transits for let's see, June 21st, 2024 on the outside, that is going to be the full moon. So that's midway between the lunar month. And with this bike wheel, we can pretty much see what transits are going to be making an impact during this month. Now, in the case of Putin, I always like to point out that there is some dispute about his birth data. However, the chart that I use is the one that most people use. The birth data has been confirmed by Putin's webmaster, and it seems to work pretty well. Okay, so during this lunar month, Putin is going to have transiting Chiron opposite natal Mercury. I'm usually using 1-degree orbs here. Well, transiting Chiron is going through Putin's sixth house. There could be some sort of wounding or illness involved. However, Russia is a very closed society, so we don't always know what's really going on with Putin. But this could cause some wounding or illness or other kinds of distress. Mercury rules Gemini, which is fully contained within his eighth house of death and transformation. That house also refers to other people's money and resources. So this could be some difficulty in getting trade agreements that he wants with China or other countries. Some difficulty with other countries' resources in this case. There could be some mental wounding since Mercury rules the mind. So hopefully we'll get some accurate news about what goes on with Putin this month. Now, he has more good aspects than bad aspects. He has transiting Chiron making a trine to his Pluto. Pluto rules his first house. It's in his 10th house of status and society. So this is going to bode well for uh, Vladimir Putin. This will help strengthen him both personally and as leader. Additionally, he has transiting Saturn, making a sextile to natal Jupiter and a trine to natal Uranus. That is going to assist him with his control of things and in dealing also with others. Okay, let's see what else we can take a look at here. If we go to the next slide, we have a little bar graph which shows when these aspects will be in effect and if and when they are exact. So, for instance, Chiron in opposition to natal Mercury, that's going to be in effect for the entire lunar month, and it's exact on June 27th. Chiron trine Pluto and Saturn sextile Jupiter, those are also in effect for the entire lunar month. And the trine between transiting Chiron and natal Jupiter is exact on June 12th. So that should be maybe the best time of the month for Putin. Saturn trine Uranus, it's in effect for most of the lunar month. We have a little gap here where it gets outside of that 1 degree orb. Okay. Saturn sesquiquadrate the ascendant, that is actually in effect right at the beginning of the lunar month, but it fades quickly, and so I don't really have it listed here. But that means that right at the beginning of the lunar month, there could still be a little frustration, personally, for Putin. Now, if we take a look at Russia, oh, let me go back and mention, except for this Chiron in opposition to Mercury, which could cause some wounding or some trouble, it looks like a pretty good month for Putin. And as I say, this stuff is not like mixing hot water with cold water where you get lukewarm water. It's like a tossed salad. You got the easy stuff sitting right next to the hard stuff. The tomatoes right next to the avocados in a tossed salad. Okay, so he's got more good stuff going on, and the trine to his Pluto could strengthen him personally, but he might get some wounding of some sort too. So we just have to wait and see, and hopefully we'll get good news about Putin. Okay, on to Russia. Well, transiting Pluto is opposite the natal ascendant, and that suggests more pressure from other countries upon Russia. Transiting Saturn is going to be squaring natal Mars and semi-square natal Saturn. That suggests that Russia will be maintaining its aggressive posture, continuing with the war, but it's also going to be experiencing some frustration with other countries. And transiting Pluto is going to be sextile the natal midheaven, and that will likely strengthen Putin's influence this month, his power, his hand, and all things which are being undertaken. So, all in all, there are going to be some continued frustrations for Russia this month. That is what is most likely. Difficulties in dealing with other countries, frustration with the war, which could result in either protests against the war or continuing the war, and frustrations with dealing with other countries. And here's a graph showing when these things are going to be in effect. And everything is in effect either the entire lunar month or pretty much the entire lunar month. And you can see dates upon when things become exact. Okay, Saturn square Mars, for instance, that is going to be exact on June 10th, and then again on July 18th, which gets into the next lunar month. So we need to keep an eye on what is going on with Russia around this date because it may be repeated a month later. Now let's move on to the Ukraine. Transiting Pluto is conjunct natal Saturn in Ukraine's chart. And notice that there is this opposition between natal Saturn and Chiron in the chart for Ukraine. Saturn can be restriction. Chiron can often manifest as wounding. And unfortunately, for the next 3 years, 2024, 2025, 2026, Pluto is going to spend a lot of time activating the Saturn-Chiron opposition. It's briefly going to retrograde back into Capricorn for a couple of months this fall, but then when it gets back into Aquarius, uh, from that time until sometime in 2026, it's going to be moving from 1 degree Aquarius to 3 degrees Aquarius, putting it first in conjunction with Saturn and then in opposition with Chiron. So this is going to be 3 years of restriction and wounding, possibly, for Ukraine. Okay, what else? We have transiting Uranus down here, making a sesquiquadrate to natal Uranus. Well, natal Uranus is conjunct the cusp of the first house for Ukraine, and it is also square natal Jupiter and natal Mercury in the eighth house of death and transformation and other people's money. This suggests unexpected events going on with Ukraine, some unexpected things, and it could involve losses on the battlefield. It could also involve aid from other countries, since this has to do with other people's money and resources. So there could be some twists and turns, some unexpected changes of events for Ukraine this month. And let's see, we also have transiting Saturn as sesquiquadrate natal Chiron. This is probably going to result in more wounding for Ukraine, and perhaps wounding as a result of a drying up or restriction of resources that it needs, and some difficulties in dealing with other countries are going to be more likely since natal Chiron is in the seventh house, which has to do with others, and in this case, other countries. Now, on the good side, transiting Chiron is sextile the natal moon. This will probably bring some healing to both the people and the resources of Ukraine. So they probably will get some of what they need. And transiting Uranus is going to be making a trine to natal Mars. This could be unexpected things which help Ukraine's war effort. So by and large, it looks like there will be a good amount of frustration, wounding for Ukraine, some difficulty in getting resources that they need, but I suspect that they will eventually get those resources. But lots of wounding could occur in the interim. And here's our graph, which shows the strength of these aspects throughout the lunar month from June 6th through July 5th. And some of these things last the entire lunar month, like Uranus trine Mars here, exact on the 17th, which interestingly is the same day that transiting Uranus makes a sesquiquadrate with natal Uranus. So some unexpected things on this date are turnarounds, but some of it will be beneficial. Chiron sextile natal moon, that is in effect through maybe the first 3 weeks of this lunar month, but then it fades away. But we're still left with these more difficult aspects like Saturn making a sesquiquadrate to natal Chiron, which was exact on June 3rd and will be exact again in the following lunar month on July 25th. Okay, so it looks like there are going to be some saving graces for Ukraine in June, and some of that will go into July, but there are probably going to be more hardships and frustrations lying ahead for Ukraine this month. And there's that unfortunate 3-year period during which transiting Pluto will be activating that Saturn Chiron opposition in Ukraine's natal chart. Now, if we move on to King Charles, look at how this lunar month will affect him. Well, let's see. Oh, I can see I have one little typo here. This should be 6/21/2024 for the full moon in June. I think this was for the previous full moon, which occurred on my birthday on May 23rd, 2024. Let's see, do I have that typo On some of these other slides, not so far. So uh, just keep in mind this date is supposed to be June 21st, 2024. And for this lunar month, uh, that starts on June 6th, it's mainly bad aspects, difficult or tense aspects to deal with. So it's probably not going to be the best month for King Charles. Transiting Neptune is going to be squaring his natal Uranus and Jupiter. So here's Neptune right here. Here's Uranus and Jupiter here. Unfortunately, this square is going to last the entire summer. Neptune is pretty much going to be stationary at 29 degrees of Pisces. And as it squares natal Uranus and natal Jupiter, this signifies probably some sort of weakening and maybe an infection or uh, consequences related to chemotherapy or other treatment that King Charles is getting for his cancer. Okay, so that is probably not going to be good for King Charles. This can cause some confusion for him, make logical, precise thinking more difficult. And he also has transiting Saturn making a sesquiquadrate to his ascendant. So all of this is probably going to affect him personally and put more restrictions on his activities. Additionally, transiting Pluto is squaring his natal moon. Pluto is moving retrograde now, so it's moving back toward an exact conjunction with his natal moon, and this could precipitate or worsen his current health crisis. So things look pretty tense for uh, King Charles this month. And the squares from transiting Neptune to Jupiter and Uranus, they are going to be very strong throughout the entire lunar month. Neptune square natal Jupiter is exact on June 19th, and on July 15th, which is in the next lunar month, and transiting Neptune square natal Uranus is exact right at the end of this lunar month on July 5th. Now, the good thing is Saturn sesquiquadra ascendant, that is not real strong. It's fading, and it's not going to be in effect for much more than a couple of weeks, or the end of June, beginning of July. Okay, now Pluto square moon, that is really picking up only at the end of June, so it's not real strong yet. So that exact square will happen later this summer. All right, now let's move on to Kate Middleton, Princess Kate. And let me talk about the good part first. She has transiting Saturn, making a sextile to her natal sun, and trine to her natal moon this month. This is really going to help strengthen her constitution, and it will probably make it a little easier to endure some of the negative aspects. And chief among those is going to be transiting Chiron opposite natal Saturn right here. And that is likely to result in more wounding, more restriction of her life. Now, she also has transiting Uranus in the 10th house, making a sesquiquadrate to natal Mars. This is probably going to be some unexpected impacts upon her energy or her physical body. and the energy aspects of that physical body. Again, I imagine this would be a result of the cancer treatment, the chemotherapy. And transiting Saturn is going to be making a semi-square to her midheaven right here. Consequently, I expect she is probably going to have to continue to limit her activities as a member of the British royal family. Okay, and let me point out a couple of other things back to Transiting Chiron opposite natal Saturn. Keep in mind that Saturn is the ruler of her sixth house of health. Okay, and let's see what else. So, if we look to see when these aspects will be in effect, well, these good aspects from Saturn, they're going to be in effect throughout the entire lunar month. You can see some dates here on which they become exact. The good news is that Chiron opposition to Saturn, that aspect is fading. By the time we get to mid-June, it's no longer within that 1-degree orb. Uranus sesquiquadrate Mars, though, that is going to be in effect throughout the entire lunar month, and it becomes exact on June 25th. So, the British royal family is about as tight-lipped or about as secretive as Vladimir Putin, or so it seems at times. So, we may or may not get a lot of news from them about the health of Princess Kate and King Charles, but I wish both of them the best. King Charles, in particular, has a very challenging month ahead, and Princess Kate has this one really big challenge with Uranus sesquiquadrate natal Mars, but she also has some aspects from Saturn to Sun and Moon that will help strengthen her constitution. Okay, now if we look at the chart for the United Kingdom to see what we have going on in this lunar month, well, we have transiting Pluto opposite Jupiter and semi-square Mercury. Jupiter is in the 10th house, so this has to do with leadership in the country. And that's not only King Charles, but also the Prime Minister. And it's looking now like in the near future, there may be a power shift in the country, and we may get a new Prime Minister. And if we don't, at the very least, that's what the possibility is now. That's what we're reading in the news. Some political unrest. And this is represented by this transiting Pluto and opposite to Jupiter, change or transformation of leadership. And with the semi-square to Mercury, we're not always getting all the news about it. There is some tension involved when it comes to communication. Okay, now we have transiting Uranus making a semi-square to the natal midheaven and a sesquiquadrate to the natal sun down here. This again suggests some sort of change in leadership. That could be a new prime minister, or it could be some news involving King Charles or Princess Kate, or it could be all of the above, or it could be something else that I have failed to mention. But there will be some changes uh, related to leadership in the country or unexpected events, and this will affect the homeland. It'll affect the people of the country. Now, there are also some very good aspects happening for the United Kingdom this month. We have transiting Pluto, making a trine to natal Uranus. And that's relatively close to the cusp of the first house. This is probably going to be some very transformative, creative energy that comes into the mix. We have transiting Saturn right here, trine natal moon and natal Neptune. Uh, Transiting Saturn is completing a grand trine here with Moon and Neptune. And this is going to be more stabilizing for leadership, for the people, and for financial concerns of the country. So this is good news, probably economically and otherwise. And then transiting Chiron is going to be making a trine to natal Saturn over here. And Saturn rules the fourth house. So in this chart, that is the homeland. And Chiron is in the seventh house, which has to do with, let's see, other countries, other people. So this is all good news. It looks like all in all, things are going to go well for the United Kingdom economically and for the people, the homeland. But there may be some things having to do with leadership, some political changes in the United Kingdom, or things related to Prince Charles or other royals. So, just things to keep an eye on. And here you can see again when these aspects will be in effect and when they become exact. Let's see. Transiting Pluto opposite to Jupiter, that has already peaked uh, just the other day. So, political difficulties for the current prime minister, they may be fading, or whatever happens may be a consequence of this peak. We'll have to wait and see, but this will still be in effect throughout the entire lunar month, as well as will Uranus making a sesquiquadrate to the sun. Uranus making a semi-square to the midheaven, that has also peaked, and that will be in effect until about the last week of June, thereabouts. Okay, and the good aspects, Pluto trine natal Uranus, natal or transiting Saturn, trine natal Moon, transiting Saturn, trine natal Neptune, transiting Chiron, trine natal Saturn. Those are in effect throughout the entire lunar month. So I think the good news is going to outweigh the bad for the United Kingdom. And some of the tenser aspects are gradually fading. All right. Now let's look at Pope Francis. And unfortunately, just like King Charles, he has nothing but bad aspects this month. And at his age, with his current state of health, that is not good news. So let's see, transiting Pluto right here, it makes a semi-square to his natal Saturn, which is in his eighth house of death and transformation, also other people's resources. So this indicates a rather difficult time for him, a more restrictive time. Transiting Uranus is going to be making a semi-square to natal ascendant, a sesquiquadrate to natal Mercury. There are going to be probably some unexpected events or things which affect him very personally, and also his relationships and communications with others. And then transiting Saturn is going to be opposite natal Neptune and square natal Chiron. Okay, so this could result in some wounding, some confusion, possibly some infection, or lingering illness of some sort. So there's going to be a fair amount of tension for Pope Francis this month. If we look at this graph to see when things are strongest, we see that a lot of this stuff lasts throughout the entire lunar month. The transing Pluto sesquiquadrate, semi-square natal Saturn, that lasts throughout the entire lunar month. It peaks on June 24th, transiting Saturn in opposition to its Neptune. That lasts the entire lunar month and beyond. It's exact on June 5th and also on July 23rd into the next lunar month. So let's see, today, the day that I'm making this video, it's June 5th, so I'll keep an eye out for news on Pope Francis today. See what's going on with him. Transiting Uranus, semi-square the ascendant, that is exact on June 16th. And it's going to be active throughout the entire lunar month. Saturn's square Chiron, that doesn't get that strong, fortunately, but it kicks in about mid-June and lasts almost to mid-July. And transing Uranus, making the sesquiquadrate with natal Mercury, that actually starts to kick in right before the beginning of the next lunar month. So for most of this lunar month, it's not going to be a problem. But you can see that as we go into the next lunar month, uh, transiting Pluto gets within 1 degree orb of a square to the midheaven. So later on this summer, we might see some change in the status of Pope Francis. Perhaps he will retire as his predecessor did. Perhaps something more serious will happen, forcing him to relinquish the papacy. Or he might endure it all. But either way, it looks like this month is going to be pretty serious for Pope Francis. Okay, I think that's going to be my last slide here. So let me stop sharing and let me put my camera back here so you can see me again. So I'm back. So that wraps it up for part 2 of how this upcoming lunar month from June 6th through July 5th will affect countries and people. So I hope you enjoyed it. We'll keep an eye on those countries, those people, see exactly what happens. And remember, it's not astrology which makes events happen, it's people who make events happen. Astrology is simply the cosmic weather, the things we have to deal with and contend with, either good or bad. But we're the ones who decide what we're going to do with that information and those influences. So, uh, as always, as you go forth into this next lunar month, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, do things that will make this world a better place. All the good, all the individual good that each of us do will benefit not only ourselves, but also others. So uh, make what little contribution you can. Everyone can contribute a drop to make this a better world, but these drops will add up and become a mighty ocean. Okay, so do the best you can out there. And with that, I'll say so long and be well.